Indiana's ninth Congressional District stretches across contrast, from college towns shaped by new ideas to river cities built on generations of work to rural communities where the future still feels uncertain. It's a district that changed politically in recent years, but where the same questions keep returning. Will good jobs stay? Will healthcare remain within reach? Will the next generation build a life here or go somewhere else? Tonight's guest believes public service begins not with power, but with community, responsibility, and a willingness to serve. Now he's stepping forward in a crowded Democratic primary to represent the ninth District in Congress, challenging an incumbent who won re-election decisively in 2024. Because in this part of Indiana, politics isn't abstract. It's about whether opportunity still lives close to home. Good evening and welcome back to Hold 'em Accountable, where we cut through the noise, follow the facts, and keep the focus where it belongs, the people of Indiana. Tonight's guest is Keil Roark, a Democratic candidate for the U.S. House of Representatives in Indiana's 9th Congressional District, a region spanning south central and southeastern Indiana from Monroe County to the Ohio River communities. Roark is an electrical engineer, project manager, and a Navy veteran who previously ran for the Indiana House in 2022 and is now part of a multi-candidate Democratic fifth primary field seeking to challenge the Republican incumbent in 2026. His path to public service is rooted in community service, military leadership, and work managing large teams. Experiences, he says, shaped his belief in relationship building and service-driven leadership. Tonight, we move beyond campaign messaging to ask what he would actually do in Congress, how he would represent a politically diverse district, and what real change could look like for Hoosiers across the ninth. Keil, welcome to Hold 'em Accountable.
Thanks, Derek. I appreciate the time and the opportunity to be with you this afternoon. Appreciate it.
And it's always great talking to a squid.
Well, hey, I didn't know you were in the Navy, but gosh, thank you for your service.
I'm a Marine. Thank you.
Oh, sorry.
Hold on. Here we go. This will be better.
Oh, there we go. There we go.
There we go. That makes me feel much better in here.
Yeah, that was great. Thank you.
Not a problem. Let's get into it. Many rural counties struggle with hospital access and healthcare affordability. What federal action would you prioritize first?
So, I think, at the end of the day, I wasn't born with a silver spoon in my mouth. But one thing I did have growing up is I had a good paying union job and I had a good family. And so, with that good paying union job that I used to be in the UAW. I worked at Chrysler on the assembly line, both in Newark and in Kokomo transmission. And I was given the opportunity to, one, realize what I wanted to do, right? Did I want to work on the assembly line the rest of my career, or did I see myself doing something else? But the good thing I had is a good paying union job. And I think what we need right now are good paying jobs, union or otherwise. I mean, I prefer union, but at the end of the day, we want good paying jobs that pay good wages. Because one of the issues we're having is inflation is outpacing wages. I was doing a little research the other day, and the wages, the current minimum wages at the federal level are $7.25, has been unchanged since 2009. And that's just abhorrent, ridiculous, or that we cannot change that rate from 7.25 to maybe 12 to $15 an hour where it should be. Folks need to have a living wage. They need to have a living wage to pay their home, pay for their car payments, mortgage payments, college, save for the future. And if they're not getting that, they're struggling. And that's essentially what we're seeing right now. People are living paycheck to paycheck, and they're really struggling working 1 to 2 different jobs, and even 3 jobs in some cases. And then also, obviously, in addition to that, the ACA subsidies have expired. So that's therefore increasing healthcare costs as well. So, I also harken back to, good paying positions, good paying jobs with healthcare and benefits for folks. They truly need an opportunity. They don't want a handout. They just want an opportunity. And as a ninth congressional district congressman, I would make sure I created and designed policies that will allow for businesses to stay in the Southern Indiana area and contribute to society and offer those high paying wages and opportunities. I mean, that's as a congressional rep, that would be my goal. I want folks to stay here. I want folks to raise a family here, and I also want folks to contribute to our society. So yeah, I think that's my economic plan. Um, there's more to it. A lot of it also would be new innovation and STEM innovation. Creating tax incentives for businesses. Whether it's in Bloomington or in New Albany or Floyd County or Clark County. Create business incentives, tax incentives for businesses to stay here and recruit and retain talent to come to these areas to build businesses that provide economic stimulus to the area, right? So I would also be pushing that. And then obviously AI. I mean, every time you talk about AI, I mean, you're hearing a lot about that nowadays with the data centers going up. So, but I think right now there's a lot of controversy about data centers because there's a lot of folks that are concerned about resource management. They're coming in unregulated. No NDAs are not being, forthcoming. There, a lot of the counties and cities are requiring NDAs. Um, as opposed to, hey, let's open up the books and let's show who's building the data center. And let's figure out what is the value proposition for that community, right? What are they getting out of it? Years in the past, when an assembly plant you would come in, whether it was Ford, Honda, Toyota, right? They would come in, they'd build a plant. But what would happen is they would get tax incentives. They get revenue from that plant, either state income tax, local income tax. So the community would get tax revenues. So there's definitely a value proposition. But these data centers, I think there's a good opportunity there in terms of jobs and such. But post the data center being built, what is the value proposition? So I would like to see legislation around, hey, okay, that's fine. I'm all for innovation. I'm all for, infrastructure planning, but let's get some value proposition here for those communities that they can see some tax revenues from that data center.
Many rural counties struggle with hospital access and healthcare affordability. What federal action would you prioritize first?
Well, as much as I'd like to repeal and replace the OBBBA bill, the one big beautiful bill. I think it's over the next 10 years, we're looking at a $13 billion cut in Medicaid and SNAP benefits. There's a trickle down effect to that. And one of the biggest trickle down effects is, Indiana hospitals, right? And the rural hospitals. And then in the ninth congressional district, we're really specifically looking at Ascension, St. Vincent in North Vernon and Salem, and then also the Harrison County Hospital. Um, those are the three that was sourced by Indianapolis Star as being on a high risk level of going bankrupt or folding because of the one big beautiful bill. And most people don't realize, but if you cut the Medicare or the Medicaid benefit, if you cut that benefit, those hospitals are going to see less revenue. So therefore, you're going to squeeze those margins even tighter and put them in the red from a financial standpoint. So there is definitely a risk there for those hospitals to close in the next 3 to 5 years. Hopefully, God forbid that never happens. But in some of these counties, Washington County, you have Harrison County, you have North Vernon, Jennings County. You just have one hospital in one county, right? So they're going to really, our folks are really going to struggle to get care. And our friends in the Republican Party, you know, here I got a picture of them. They're sitting there, they're sitting there laughing like, oh, that this is all a great time, woohoo! Everybody's laughing, but it's not a laughing matter. It's very serious, and I'm deeply worried and upset by it. Essentially what they're doing is they're cutting 13 billion out of Medicare and SNAP benefits and giving it to the rich, right? So, they're robbing, the disenfranchised and folks who really need the money and giving it to the rich because they want to extend the tax cuts. Um, and so there's a lot of discussion around that effective tax rate. And so that's what the wealthy do. They essentially, if they make more than 500,000, a million to 2 million years, they take that money and they keep writing off the tax bill to get it down to, 5, 10, 20%. I think you've probably heard of Bezos getting 5% effective tax rate and Musk effective tax rate of 4%. And that's essentially how they do it. They use their wealth and their assets to bring down their tax bill. So yeah, I mean that's one of the things that I would do, obviously, and I would be an advocate to repeal that bill, of course. Um, but in addition to that, I would try to write some legislation to give that money back if we were in the majority. I think based on what's happening right now, I think the Democrats will control the House in the fall. And I would be a proponent of writing new legislation to take that funding and give it back to those states that need that money, and also help with those maybe we call it a rural hospital bill to help with those funding cuts. So that's probably my first action: repeal and design new legislation to put that money back, if possible.
Bloomington's research economy and Bedford's manufacturing base face different futures. How would you balance innovation investment with industrial stability?
Sure. I mean, Bloomington is a big area for healthcare. A lot of healthcare funding. You got Cook and Baxter, two big companies there, pharmaceutical as well as medical device companies. A lot of federal dollars going into Bloomington and Maroon County. In terms of research dollars, quite frankly, I would just keep that going. Our population needs innovation in terms of medical. Um, I mean, we just been through COVID 4 or 5 years ago. Look at the vaccines that have been developed to basically deal with COVID, and we need those innovations coming. And you're not going to get those innovations and those patents and research unless you got federal dollars coming in. It's just a reality. We have a lot of issues in society in terms of health and wellness, and we need medical care. We need I'm Gen X generation. My parents are baby boomers. We have a lot of baby boomers who are retiring or have been retiring, and they need medical care. They need taken care of, and they need innovations and new procedures, new vaccines to help keep them healthy. So I would continue federal funding, and try to encourage that even more so, to make sure we're doing all we can to kick off the new vaccine that cures cancer, for example, colon cancer, pancreatic cancer, you name it, right? So I would continue that.
Culture remains foundational across the district. What policies would you support to protect family farms facing consolidation and cost pressures?
Well, I mean, let's start with the basic fundamentals. Trump tariffs. I advocate against his tariffs, especially when it comes to agriculture, because there's one example where he's really hurt soybean farmers here in southern Indiana, and that's basically export. The export business of soybeans, one of our biggest exporters is to China. And so since the Trump administration has really taken aggressive posture against China, they've decided they're not going to buy as much soybeans as they have in the previous years. So of course, our soybean farmers are struggling with that, because their volumes aren't there, their margins are lower because their revenues aren't as high as they should be. And then also, you're probably hearing a lot about we're importing importing beef. Sorry about that, beef from Argentina, right? So that's another example. And obviously, when you import beef from Argentina, you're going to lower the price of beef that's being delivered here in the U.S. So that's going to put even more pressure on our cattle ranch, farmers who are selling beef, right? So those are two examples of where the Trump administration is really causing a lot of stress and havoc with our farmers here in Indiana. And I know there was a big I think it was a $12 billion aid package to farmers here just last week, they were on MSNBC. They had the head of the Farmers Association said, "Hey, I haven't seen a nickel of that money. Haven't seen a nickel of it. Where's the stimulus? Where's the support?" There's a lot of pressure. And then also you have issues of bankruptcy. A lot of farmers are going bankrupt in Indiana because of the stress, the financial stress and the business stress. So, I would advocate to try to design policies that helps farmers, financially with their cost, because their cost of new equipment, their cost to run a business is very high, and it's hard for them to stay afloat. So,
Young people often leave southern Indiana for opportunity elsewhere. How do you create reasons to stay, work, and raise families locally?
yeah, I mean, I think it comes down for young folks is creating opportunity. Creating opportunity with a career, both blue collar type roles and white collar roles, but also creating a culture of innovation and technology advancement. I think creating those opportunities in the district are first and foremost. Obviously, Bloomington is a hotbed for innovation because all the medical research going on there. But we also need to try to expand that to Floyd County and Clark County that are, right across the river from Louisville. I mean, we have Louisville close by. We got to leverage that kind of small city, Kentuckiana vibe in terms of building an infrastructure to support those innovative businesses. Pulling Google, it'd be nice to have Google build a business in New Albany, right? Build a building and start a business there, or Facebook, right? I mean, I know Facebook. I do know one thing. Since we have the East End Bridge went in Charlestown, in that area, we have really, blossomed in terms of businesses because of that bridge. That bridge has really created an economic stimulus in Clark County right there. So we just need more of that. I mean, obviously Amazon's there. We need more businesses to come in, and we need those infrastructure projects to allow those businesses to thrive in those areas. But we also need the tax policies to support that. I mean, at the end of the day, Indiana is a great place to live because it's a low cost place, low regulation, low cost. And so a lot of businesses find it attractive to do business here. And so with that in mind, you know, we have to continue to kind of keep that in mind and develop those businesses so young folks will want to stay here and they won't want to go to Chicago or Nashville or LA. They will stay here.
Infrastructure from broadband to river commerce and highways is essential to regional growth. Which project comes first in Congress?
I hear a lot about broadband still not reaching certain parts of the district because, as you know, we got 18 counties out of the 18, 3 are pretty suburban, pretty urban a little bit. The other 15 are kind of rural, right? So we have our rural counties, need broadband. There's still need for broadband. And we need to try to develop tax incentives for Spectrum and AT&T and the like to offer those services to our customers in Jackson County or Switzerland or Jennings County, right? That folks are wanting to get broadband so they can contribute in the economy, right? Because if they have access, they can contribute to the economy. If they can contribute to the economy, tax revenues go up, and we're able to pay for other things that need help with. For example, at-risk hospitals that the government's going to have, we're looking at maybe 3 hospitals in the ninth congressional district because the big, beautiful bill's cutting all the funding, right?
The district has tended Republican in recent cycles. How would you represent all constituents, including those who don't vote for you?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I'll be the first one to tell you, I have a lot of friends and colleagues that are Republican or diehard MAGA. Some of their ideas are interesting. Some of them I don't agree with, of course. But I'm the kind of person, I listen to everybody, I don't look at them with contempt. I look at them as a person, and I try to respect their views and listen to what everybody has to say, no matter if they vote for me or not. So, if and when I become the congressional rep for ninth congressional district, I will listen to everybody. I'm not going to be one of those politicians that Oh, well, you didn't vote for me. I'm not going to listen to you. No, that's not true because I believe in diversity in thought. Diversity in thought is a good thing. It's a good thing for not only for our district, but for our state, for our country. It's great to have different ideas from different perspectives. And who knows, they can provide a really good piece of legislation or solution to a problem that we need to solve in our district. So, with that said, I would definitely, you know, hook up or try to set up a portal of sorts, constituent portal, and work out a program where I could, we could have call with the congressman day or an evening, maybe three times a month or four times a month, and then we have an email service. We'll set something like that up where we get back to folks on a pretty regular basis, and I would support staff to do that.
Your background includes military service and engineering leadership. How would those experiences shape your legislative priorities?
Well, I mean, being in the Navy for 11 years and being an engineer for a long time, more than 10 to 15 plus years, I've given a lot of I have a lot of perspective on what the military needs in terms of deployment readiness. So obviously, I could be on the Armed Services Committee or one of the other the VA committees, and then obviously I could also support the STEM committees as well in Congress. Um, because at the end of the day, we don't have enough folks that have military and engineering backgrounds serving in Congress. I think the last time I checked, I think the numbers have gotten better in terms of veterans. I think we have roughly about 100 in Congress now, which is a great number. Because veterans usually have a different perspective going into those positions, but STEM is pretty short. I don't know the numbers exactly, but I think it's 15 to 20 in Congress that have an engineering or science background. That is not enough. With our world as sophisticated it is in terms of STEM, AI, advanced research, pharmaceuticals, medical, you name it, the like. We need people in Congress who understand what lobbyists are talking about when they're doing patents or innovations, right? Because I just get this impression we don't have enough people who understand um, what engineering is and what it takes to design and develop new technologies for the future. Um, and I think that's part of the problem with the AI and all these data centers is politicians, I think, just listen to them, but they don't really understand. And they just kind of go along with it. And that's unfortunate.
In a closely divided Congress, what's your strategy for achieving real legislative results, not just messaging?
Yeah. I mean, I think at the end of the day, um, you have to build relationships. So you have to be that person to build relationships with everybody. Republicans, Democrats, Independents, and be able to agree to disagree, but be civil. So this hostility in Congress, this not getting along, not doing things together is just not healthy because they're not able to pass meaningful legislation that fixes some of our deepest problems. For example, the budget deficit or the national debt. Um, whether we like it or not, we have to come together as a country to fix our problems. We have to work together. And the only way you work together is by relationship building. So some of the examples I would use is even for people I disagree with, build enough relationship with them where you can call and ask them about their family or, you know, talk to them if they have a death in the family, communicate with them and send them flowers and tell them you're sorry for their loss. Just be a human and care about your fellow lawmakers. And you know what? If you do that, people are going to want to work with you and they'll want to find a way to make it work. And that's how Congress should work. Um, Even if you disagree on issues, whether it's the economy or national security or supporting ICE or not supporting ICE or supporting, tax policy. You have to be able to get along, agree to disagree, but don't agree to not like each other. Just kind of work together, build relationships, have your emotion. You're going to have passionate moments. Don't get me wrong. But at the end of the day, still look at that person and say, I'm still going to work with that person because I like them and they're a decent person. I might not agree with them, but I still want to work with them.
And then last question, and this is going to be a kind of three-parter. First part would be why you, and then why now? And then the next part is out of these 7 Republican controlled seats in Congress in Indiana, why do you think your seat, your district, could be the one to flip?
Okay, so why me? All right, so um, well, I mean, I really think I kind of fit the optimal background for this position. I got a blue collar background, didn't have any rich family. My dad was a police officer, security guard, and my mother was a meat cutter. Basically, everything I have is because I worked for it. Nobody handed it to me. So I understand empathy. I understand what our folks are dealing with because I've been there. I've been there. I understand what it's like to be laid off or not having income coming into the family. I understand that. So I've walked the walk. Nothing was handed to me. And then I've taken those opportunities, being in the union to pay my way through college. I went to Purdue, got my undergrad in electrical engineering, and used those opportunities to move up in the engineering ranks, and always had a good paying position. And then with that experience and background, I joined the Navy as a civil engineering officer, and I gave back in that way. So, you know, uh, with my service in the military, my blue collar background, and I go to church as well. I go to Northside Christian Church, and been a Christian my whole life. I think it's part of my being to serve the community, but also be a good Christian, be a good person, be a good dad. Um, and so, with those in mind, I really think that's me. Um, and then the next thing is why now? Well, I think this time is different. I've been around the Southern District for many years. And it has trended Republican since I think Barron Hill was 2008, and then he got beat by Young, 2011, I think it was. I think this time is very different because even the Republicans and even the MAGA colleagues of mine are very upset with the current direction of the economy, with the current leadership and lack of integrity, lack of decency, and the cruelty that has been put out there by the administration. I mean, ICE, for example. I mean, they're acting like a paramilitary organization, and you can relate being in the Marines. So it's like, wait a minute, wear your mask. I mean, you guys are wearing masks. You shouldn't be wearing masks. Where's your warrants? You should have a warrant. You should be in a marked vehicle. Come on. This is crazy. I've never seen anything like if we have the Indiana State Police, they pull you over, they have their vehicle, they're clearly ID. Okay, that's fair. But ID yourself. And then also, ICE is failed on in a number of fronts. One, they're not building relationships with the communities. One of the problems up here in Minneapolis is because the Minneapolis folks in the city and the city police and the feds aren't working together. They're just not working together, and so you create this tinderbox situation up there. And so that's what happened. And then obviously there's investigation. They'll probably end up indicting some folks over that. I think that's going to be forthcoming because people were definitely out of line there. But anyway, so that's kind of the situation with ICE. I feel that with the right background, we have a chance. We have a chance with the right person. And I feel that I am that person because I have that background. The Republicans I like everybody else in the race and they're good people, but the Republicans don't want me. They want them. They want me. They don't want me because my background's just like Todd Young's. He went to law school. I went to engineering school. I went to University of Chicago. So did he. So, so it's I think I have the pedigree to back it up, and they really can't lay it on me in terms of I was given everything because I wasn't. So, and then I think what was the last one?
Why do you think your district is one of the ones that's flippable?
Oh, yeah. I mean, definitely because, it's the stars are aligning. I really think people, not only Democrats, but the Indiana or the independents and the disenfranchised Republicans are looking. The hard right, probably not, but there's 25% in the middle. Those Republicans or independents, they're starting to look. I really believe they feel very upset about the Trump administration's lack of decency, integrity, the economy, inflation. Every time you turn around, it's just drama. Drama from the Kennedy Center getting changed to Trump Kennedy. I mean, President Kennedy was assassinated. Really? Do we really have to stoop that low? Oh yeah, we do. Okay. And now he's holding funding and and some of the infrastructure projects in New York because like Penn Station, he wants Penn Station to be changed to Trump Station, and he's going to hold the funding unless they change it. It's like, yeah, it boggles the mind. So I guess one of the things that caught my attention in all this is the fact that my Republican MAGA friends were like, well, yeah, I'm upset. That's what triggered me to think, oh, I think the Ninth Congressional has a shot this year, has a true shot. If those stars did not align, I probably wouldn't be there. But the stars are aligning that way with the right person, and I'm that person to do the job.
We've talked about the future of the Ninth District, jobs, healthcare, infrastructure, and opportunity across southern Indiana. But now it's time for the part of the show where the answers get shorter and the choices get clearer. No speeches, no talking points, just instinct. This is hold 'em or fold 'em. I'll give you a statement. If you agree, you hold 'em. If you don't, you fold 'em. One quick sentence if you need it. Ready?
Sure.
Let's deal the cards.
Mhm.
Healthcare should be treated as a human right with movement toward universal public coverage.
I guess hold them. I think hold 'em. Okay.
The federal minimum wage should be raised and indexed to inflation.
Yes.
Workers should have stronger federal protections to unionize without retaliation.
Yes.
Candidates should refuse corporate PAC or questionable special interest money, even if it costs them politically.
Yes.
Major federal investment in clean energy can create jobs in districts like this one.
Yes.
Public education funding should take priority over expanding private voucher programs.
Yes.
Stronger gun safety laws, including universal background checks, are necessary to protect communities.
Hold them. Hold them.
Housing affordability requires expanded federal investment in public and workforce housing.
Yes.
Mental health and addiction services deserve major new national investment.
Yes.
Elected officials must be willing to challenge their own party when constituents' needs come first.
Yes.
Keil, thank you for being here tonight and for sharing your story, for answering difficult questions directly, and for stepping into a race that asks a great deal from anyone willing to serve. Across the Ninth District, from Bloomington's classrooms to Bedford's quarries to river towns along the Ohio, people aren't looking for politics as usual. They're looking for stability, for honest leadership, and for someone who understands that service is not measured in speeches, but in whether life actually improves back home. Your path through community service, military leadership, and technical work solving real world problems speaks to a belief that public service is still possible when it's rooted in responsibility rather than ambition. Whatever voters ultimately decide in this primary and beyond, thank you for choosing to stand up, step forward, offer them a choice about the future of Southern Indiana. We appreciate you being here tonight, and to everyone watching and listening here in Indiana, across the U.S., and beyond. Democracy is never only national. It lives in local voices, local choices, and local courage. Because the future of this country is written one community at a time. So stay informed, ask questions, and as always, hold them accountable.